Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. I am Blake Harrison and joining me as ever is Stu Whiffen.
Hello, you all right?
Yeah, I sort of stumbled on my words there because I was thinking, like, do I introduce you in some weird way? And I just went, as ever. As ever is Stuart Whiffen. How you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, all good, all good. So there's a monster card at the weekend, so we thought we'd do a little pre-show.
Yes.
But obviously, the big news was the fact that top of the bill's changed.
Oh, I was at work when I found out, and there's like the
I
camera.
love the way that you're talking about this, like you remember it like the day that Kennedy died.
Yeah, no, it was for me. It was. This is my grassy knoll. It's UFC 282. Is my grassy knoll. I was at work and I was talking earlier that day. I was talking about how much I'm looking forward to this because there's a couple of guys that are like sort of into MMA a little bit, and the cameraman, DOP, he actually does a lot of jiu-jitsu and has rolled with like Guy Ritchie and people like that. And I was chatting to him about it and stuff, and we were talking about fights. And I was like, oh, can't wait for Yuri Glover. And then just literally hours later, I went up to him. I was like, mate, have you heard the news? And he was clearly nowhere near it. I was like devastated. And he was like, oh, right. Well, that's a shame. I was like, no, it's more. This is awful.
You can get up off the floor now, Blake. Like, why are you in a fetal position crying?
I know. That's how I felt. I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, I mean, what seems to have happened from what I can gather is Yuri Prochazka has injured his shoulder really quite badly.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, he's vacated the belt. Now, you could say that is like that kind of Bushido code that he seems to live by. I'm not going to hold up the division, which is amazing of him.
That's incredible.
What a guy.
But you're going to be a cynical prick now, aren't you?
No, I mean, it's bad business. Because if he's back in 7 months or something, then they could have made an interim title fight. He stays a champion. He earns pay-per-view points. Now there's no guarantee that he gets pay-per-view points when he comes back for his fight and all that stuff. And why
would he do that?
Why would he do what? Why would he vacate?
Obviously, because I mean, the statement given was he didn't want to hold up the division, which is admirable and brilliant. What other reason would there be? If you're going to be a cynic,
all right.
No.
Firstly, I'm just going to put out there, I think he's that guy.
Yeah.
I think Yuri Prochazka, he lives by that kind of samurai code type thing. I think he's that guy. I genuinely think he's that nice. And he went, I don't want to hold up the division.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Terrible for business. Great for your moral compass and him as a person and all that stuff.
That's great. What's the devil on your other shoulder saying?
Did he have some pressure put on him by some of the people upstairs because they needed this card to have a belt on it, a legitimate belt? Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But I want to believe he's this Bushido code guy, and I think he really is. But I just like, mate, I don't know if he's got kids or anything, but it's like they can't pop down the shops and buy trainers with his Bushido code. They've got Daddy. What's the currency in the Czech Republic? We need some prahas. I don't know, euros. I don't know what's the currency in
It's not Bushido. I can tell you that.
It's not Bushido code, mate. That's not how they're buying their Nikes. That's not how they're doing it. Come on, Yuri.
Glorious.
Oh man. But so I am gutted about that. Then what's happened after that is apparently the UFC have gone to Glover Teixeira and said, right, we want you to fight Ankalaev for the vacant belt. And he said, I can't fight Ankalaev on short notice, but I would fight Jan Blachowicz on short notice. And they've gone, no, we want Ankalaev in that main event. He's like, well, no, I'm not doing it. I'll fight Blachowicz. I won't fight Ankalaev. And they said, okay, see you later. Blachowicz Ankalaev for the vacant belt.
What do you make of that?
Has Glover made a mistake? I mean, look, I understand from a fighter's perspective. I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't be forced to fight someone that you think, do you know what? I need extra training to fight this guy because he's a certain type of stylistic matchup or something like that. Or I just need to work this differently.
But this is a couple of weeks before the fight. This is literally like a matter of like a couple of weeks. That's and Ankalaev's, a tricky character. Like people ain't queuing up to fight him.
No, I mean, for a while now, I've been thinking he's probably the best light heavyweight in the world, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, it's a real tricky one. I don't know whether Glover has made a mistake there or not. I mean, I understand from his point of view why he wouldn't want to take Ankalaev on short notice, but at 42 years of age, he's not necessarily just going to be gifted the next title shot. If Yuri comes back from his shoulder injury early, he will be the first one to get the title shot. Yeah. Then Glover's fucking 57 before he's getting any shot. What if Jamal Hill gets a big win against someone? Another guest we've had on the show recently, we had a lovely chat with Jamal Hill. Go and listen to that. But if he gets a big win, does Glover get pushed back and pushed back and pushed back? I don't think he's in this incredible position with the UFC where he can say, "You need me. You know you're giving me the next title shot." That's not guaranteed, and you're 42 years of age. I don't know where he's going to go from here and if it's going to go the way he wants, because he might end up fighting someone random like a Jamal Hill and being in trouble. You just don't know. I just don't know. What do you think? Has he made the right decision?
I think he's obviously gone in there and just thought, well, obviously he's probably thinking, I don't fancy that Ankalaev. And I don't see Glover as a liar. I'm sure he's probably being completely truthful and saying, I need more time if I'm going to fight him. And that's perfectly I don't think he's scared of him.
He's a former champion veteran. He's not scared.
And so you think, right, well, he was due to fight for the belt. So he's the only fighter left in that fight. So is he thinking, well, I should have more say over who I fight? Yeah. And I think that's perfectly reasonable to be able to sort of put your case forward that, well, look, I'll fight Yan. But they're saying, obviously, no, we want this. And so he's obviously just counter-argued that. And they've just gone, all right, in which case then, no, you're not, you're no longer on the card, which you kind of worry that, will we now see Glover fight again? Like, has this soured it? We don't know where the relationship is. I don't know if Glover said anything, but like you say, I think we all wanted him to, to have won that last fight and retired. But even when he got the belt, you wanted him to. I thought that was going to be it, and he was going to, sail off into the sunset. And I guess
pay-per-view points, mate. Pay-per-view points. If you become champ, you've got to defend it. Pay-per-view.
I know, and don't get me wrong. Like that fight with Yuri, was incredible, and I would have been all over it again. And I feel for him that, like, has he just kissed goodbye to his last chance of gold?
Maybe. I mean, look, I love Glover. I think he's fantastic. I really hope he gets another crack at the belt, because it would be a wonderful story if he could win that again at his age after the career he's had. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's difficult. I don't think the relationship will necessarily be too soured. I think it's just that the UFC will go, look, you can't call shots here. We're the UFC. We call the shots, and you'll fight who we tell you to fight. Otherwise, don't fight. And do you think Glover's at an age where it's you take your opportunity when it comes, or you risk retiring? But maybe he's happy with that.
Well, obviously he's fought Yan, so he's like, is it like the UFC thing? Well, we've seen that, like,
yes,
Ankalaev's he's the prospect, isn't he? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So okay, so we're now left with Glover probably scratching his head, thinking, oh, bollocks, have I made a real bad move here? But what we're left with is Jan Blachowicz versus Ankalaev. Do you think this is going to be a pretty straightforward win for Ankalaev?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I've got a history of whenever I pick against Blachowicz, he wins. But whenever I pick Blachowicz, he loses. Well, I think I picked Blachowicz against Glover, he lost, and every other time I've picked like Adesanya against him and whoever else, Dominic Reyes maybe. And yeah, he proves me wrong every time. So I can't pick Blachowicz what fights very well. But I would favor Ankalaev in this. I don't think it's going to be a hugely exciting fight, if I'm honest. I think both of them can be defensively sound at points. I think that Ankalaev can wrestle, but I think he's a bit more of a striker. I don't know. I see Ankalaev winning. I could see the first couple of rounds being close, and then Ankalaev pulls away. But I think Ankalaev could win like a 50-45 decision.
Yeah.
I don't see it being like, I mean, his fight with Santos was really boring. As much as I like Ankalaev in terms of, I think he is very, very good. He's, say, defensively sound, good wrestling, all that stuff. But, you know, I don't know. As I say, the only loss is I think, I don't know if he's on, how long's his win streak now? Is it like a 6-fight win streak, something like that? Maybe more. I don't know in the UFC. But
a while ago, he fought Craig, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, the Paul Craig fight's his only loss in the UFC,
in a fight he was winning.
Oh, and dominating. It's only that Craig put up that amazing triangle with a second to go.
He's done a Paul Craig.
He's done a Paul Craig. I'm going Ankalaev. Yeah, but history would dictate that if I'm picking Ankalaev, Blachowicz will win. but I'm picking Ankalaev. Who are you picking?
Same. Yeah, I think he's going to take this moment and shine. So second on the card.
Oh, mate, what a story!
I mean, we love Paddy, of course. I mean, it's pretty mental, isn't it?
It's a real
when
indication.
You look at who else is on that card.
Yeah,
Paddy's up there. It shows the power and the attention there is around Paddy the Baddy.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a real indication of what the UFC feel like they have with Paddy Pimblett. For him to be the co-main event in only his fourth fight on a pay-per-view. I mean, there's Robbie Lawler's on this card.
Yeah.
Darren Till's on this card. I mean, it's good. And to be honest, the fight that is my fight of the night that I'm looking forward to more than anything else is Bryce Mitchell, Ilia Topuria. That is
hand sanitizer
fight. Hand sanitizer boy, and Bryce Mitchell, fucking crazy conspiracy theorist guy. I mean, there's some interesting stuff going on there. I mean,
hang on, is he James Crass?
No, I don't think so. No,
because it was definitely
Bryce Mitchell.
James
I think has his own shit going on. He's like
Bryce Mitchell was definitely wanking in James Crass's sock.
Oh yes, yes, that story's amazing. I can't go into that. So we're pushed for time. I can't go into that story now. But James Krause, Bryce Mitchell, the sock. Google it if you dare, and find out the disgusting shit that went on there. But I don't think he's a James Krause. I might be wrong. But I don't think he's a Glory MMA guy. I think he trains locally near him in like Arkansas or whatever. Yeah. James Krause where is he? Is he like Ohio or somewhere like that? Or God, where's Glory? I don't know.
We'll get to Bryce, but
we'll get to Bryce.
Paddy the Baddy.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Jared Gordon. Like he's a bit of a UFC veteran now. He's had a lot of fights in the UFC. Looking at his record, for Charles Oliveira in 2019.
He's lost some big. I mean, Grant Dawson is, I think, ranked now. Charles Oliveira is a former champ. He's fought him. Who else was there? There's a big name that he's lost to. I'm trying to think who it was now.
Charles Oliveira, Diego Ferreira.
Diego Ferreira, another ranked lightweight. I mean, Jared Gordon, in terms of his time in the cage, I don't think Paddy's going to bring him anything he hasn't seen before. That's, how he reacts to it or not, I don't know. But he will have seen everything in that cage. He is a veteran. But it's outside the cage that the Paddy stuff can, I think, get in your head, much like it used to do with Conor. Jared Gordon's never been a co-main event of a pay-per-view card. That's never happened. He's never going to have had the eyes on him that he's going to have this week leading up to a fight with Paddy Pimblett. But Paddy takes it all in his stride. He loves it. Paddy loves this stuff. And if you don't love it, how does it affect you?
But is this Jared Gordon, is he thinking, I've got the golden ticket? I've got the golden ticket? Because every fighter's calling out Paddy now.
100%.
Fucking YouTubers are calling him out for big money to spar.
Mm.
And so when you've got somebody that, you know, has got a very sort of up and down career in the UFC, you know, and you get that carrot dangled that you're going to be the co-main fighting somebody that, you know, is Paddy beatable? You know, I don't know. He's looked
A lot of
perfect in
people
the
would say he
UFC,
is.
but a lot of people will say he is. He's
A lot
looked.
of people will say he looks beatable because he's been beating Cage Warriors before, and he hasn't been perfect in the
By his own
UFC.
admission as well. He said
Yes,
his last few performances, he's been very disappointed with himself. I've
he's
found
been
them all.
great. He's getting finishes, and it's been fantastic fan-friendly fights, but he's been clipped hard in a couple of his fights.
Yeah. But that's, I guess it's that kind of drama and excitement is why you love him, because he's wild.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't wait for this. I think it's going to be amazing. We're on the Paddy train, of course we are. We love him.
Yes.
But yeah, you know, what's it going to be like not having Molly on the card? Will that affect him? Probably not.
No,
But
I don't think so.
but yeah, I mean, Paddy's made for big events and all the fireworks. You know, it's what he's about. He's a superstar. But yeah, I'm surprised that co-main, like, you know, just casting my eyes down this card.
Yeah.
It's like, really? But I mean,
But that's it. What an achievement.
What an
Fair
achievement.
play to him. What an achievement. It's an indication of what the UFC feel like they could have here with Paddy. If he gets a finish on a co-main event of a pay-per-view, I think that's it. The UFC will strap the rocket to him and they will give him, okay, London or Cardiff or whatever it is, he's going to come up springtime of next year. You're going to fight a ranked opponent. And we're probably going to give you a ranked opponent that is one of your more favorable matchups. Again, not that Paddy will be calling for that. Paddy will fight anyone. But the UFC will go, we want to keep this train going as long as we possibly can. And if we can give you favorable matchups, we will. That's not Paddy's fault. Paddy's just doing his thing, earning big money, talking the talk, walking the walk, all that kind of stuff. But the UFC as a business will realize they've got a potential superstar on their hands here. Not only is he fan-friendly fighter in his style, he gets clipped, but he gives it back. He talks well, and he can also branch out a bit. That speech that he did about reaching out to your friends because you'd rather your friend cry on your shoulder than carry their coffin. That transcended the world of MMA. My wife is a mindfulness practitioner and a mindfulness coach, particularly for children. She saw that and she knew who Paddy was because she knows that I've had him on the show and she follows a little bit of MMA because I am so into it. But she was like, oh my God, there's like mindfulness pages that I follow putting up Paddy's speech about men's mental health, about suicide awareness, all that kind of stuff. This guy can transcend. And the UFC can see that. And when he's talking about issues like that, putting in the performances that he does and being entertaining and funny as well, he ticks every single box. And it just makes sense for the UFC to do whatever they can to get him as close to the belt as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk in the post-fight show. You know, if the outcome it goes Paddy's way, then we'll talk about options, you know, of ranked opponents and that then.
Yes, absolutely.
Ponzinibbio versus Robbie Lawler.
I am not looking forward to this fight at all.
Are you seeing it as a bad night in the office for Robbie?
Oh, mate, I think it's going to be sad. I think it could be a sad, sad night. I think Robbie is maybe one of those fighters that he's given us, the fans, too much of himself. When you look back on those legendary fights against McDonald, Hendricks, Condit, people like that, he's probably the most exciting champion ever. Or at least he's up there in the conversation. Like, who's more exciting as a champion than Robbie Lawler? I mean, obviously, GSP, Khabib, they were better champions.
One is exciting.
Pure excitement. Robbie Lawler gave us epic fights. I mean, the fights that will stand the test of time. I mean, but has he given us too much of himself? Because now what's he like? He's 1-5 in his last 6 fights.
Yeah, like,
and who's his win against? Nick Diaz.
Yeah.
Mate, it's not good reading, is it?
We see Barberena destroy him. Obviously, he's lost to Magny, lost to Colby, lost to Askren, lost to RDA. I mean, these are all high-level fighters he's losing to. Let's make no mistake. Got a win over Cowboy. Prior to that, lost to Tyron. Like, but then you go back and you look, wins over Condit, McDonald, Hendricks, Matt Brand,
Oh,
Ellenberger, Rory again, like Josh Koscheck. Like these are like absolute killers, and
yep,
they were all just fucking great fights, and
yep.
that's why we love Robbie. But I don't know, it's not for us to say, but has he been going on too long now? Like you say, has he given too much of himself? And
I don't know. It's I don't know. It's I hate to be the guy saying someone needs to hang up the gloves. I sort of did it with the Dominic Reyes thing. Lawler's not in that place. He's not getting starched with the first punch or anything like that, like Dom Reyes got done. Um, but I do worry about his long-term health. I now see Robbie Lawler's name on the fight card, and I go, "Oh God, I hope this is okay." And that's never, as a fan, that's never a place you want to be in. And I don't think it's the best place for a fighter to be in when fans are going, I hope this is going to be all right. So, I mean, Ponzinibbio's by no means on a win streak. I think he's lost his last two, but they were split decisions,
yeah,
and they were against like Jeff Neal and Pereira. But these are great fighters, you know. Ponzinibbio is still really good, I think. And I do see it being a potentially sad night for Robbie. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But yeah, it's
he's
just
still
getting
got
to that
power in
point.
their hands, Robbie Lawler. Make no mistake. And
Sure.
let's
But
not
yeah,
write him off just yet.
okay. All right.
He's done. He's done
I'm just
enough. He's
sad
done
about
enough.
it.
We owe him this one. Let's let him have this one.
No, see, I think we owe him like a nice retirement. Like I think we owe him a trip to Mauritius
Yeah,
on some sun loungers. Just rest up, take care of your health, mate. Be there for your kids, all that stuff. There's not enough research into the whole CTE thing with MMA. We don't know what the long-term
yeah.
impacts are going to be, really. Robbie Lawler is one of those guys where you're like, if anyone's got to be studied for that stuff, he's one of the top candidates because he's taken some big shots and
Yeah.
stayed with it. But like, how much damage is there? I don't know. It's a worrying one for me. I hope I'm wrong, but I worry for Lawler. Let's move on to
All right. So somebody that
something else.
hasn't been to Mauritius but has been out in Thailand training hard with Brendan Loughnane. He's Darren Till, who we're finally seeing back in the octagon against Drickus.
Yeah.
It's hard to call this because it's been so long since we've seen Darren Till fight.
Mm.
Where's he been with his injuries and what's going on? What Darren Till are we going to see turn up and fight at 185? Yeah, I don't really know what to make of this fight.
That is the really big question, isn't it? Is like which Darren Till will turn up. I actually think Drickus is a good fight for Darren. I don't think Drickus is going to do too much of the wrestling. He does hit hard though, but I kind of feel like his strikes are a bit more wild than Darren's. And I think Darren's got way better technical striking. You look back at that fight he had with like the Gastelums and Robert Whittaker as well. Even though he lost against Whittaker, it was like a striking chess match. And even Whittaker, who is obviously behind Adesanya and maybe Pereira now, but Whittaker for a long time has been one of the best strikers in that middleweight division. A fantastic fighter.
Mate, no mistake. Darren Till's a high-level striker.
High level striker, and I think he will technically have the edge over Drickus. But the problem is, ever since that Masvidal knockout, it feels like Darren's been quite gun shy, and it feels like, I know that there's technical and there's playing chess and playing for counters and all that kind of stuff, and then there's just you're not pulling the trigger, mate.
Well, we might see the Smash Brother. What are we going to see on the floor?
Well, that's the thing. Since his last fight, which was against Brunson, wasn't it, back in like September of last year? He didn't look like Darren Till. He looked soft. And he still caught Brunson on the way in with one shot, and then it just didn't happen for him. But Darren, since that fight, has got this lovely relationship going with Hamzat Chimaev. And if any of that drive, confidence, and ruthlessness has rubbed off on Darren, we could be seeing Darren 2.0. We could be seeing Till get a couple of wins under his belt. And make a run at the title. I think it's definitely possible. he's just got to get over, I think, some of the mental aspect of what I think that Masvidal fight did to him.
It's
And
weird, isn't it? When I know when we spoke very early on the podcast, and we spoke to Brad Pickett, and he said, he had a couple of KOs, and it changed his fight style. He no longer wanted to sort of put himself in the
yes,
firing line to pull the trigger, and was
yes,
aware that he could get knocked out. And
mm,
I think that confidence you have as a young fighter that Darren Till clearly had, that he would put himself in the mix and he would get finishes and probably, and didn't get finished. And now he's had a few of them. It's impossible for it not to filter through into your game plan in your head. It's like, oh, do I want to be in this firing line here? Do I not? Like,
and
I
Dricus is that guy as well.
yeah.
He's called Dricus Stillnox Duplessis, and Stillnox is based around, I think, a sleeping pill in South Africa called Stillnox, and that's what he's based his nickname on. He can hit hard. He can knock you out. I'm going to favour Darren in this fight, though. I think we're going to see Darren, the Smesh brother, come in and be a way better technical fighter, hit Dricus with some counters hard, land that left hand early, and Dricus is going to be like, whoa, and back off a bit, and Darren's gonna do him. I think Darren can do it and come back.
Well, obviously we hope so because we're always going to favour the Brit fighters, and if social media is anything to go by, Darren Till looks like he's in good nick.
Which is
That
really
soft body we
important.
saw against Brunson, it doesn't seem
Yeah,
to be there at the moment, unless he's going to go for
yeah.
a week long of eat what you can buffets. I think we're going to see a lean and mean Till.
You never know with Darren. You
Yeah.
just don't know. He could do anything. He's crazy.
So you're super excited about Bryce Mitchell and Tapuria, yeah?
Yes. I mean, look, normally this is the kind of fight where I'd watch at least 3 or 4 of their last few fights back to back to get a real indication of how I think this fight's going to go. I haven't had the time to
Someone's
do
gotta go.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I haven't had the time to do that this time round, but was it 15-0 and 12-0? Two ranked guys in the top 15 of a stacked featherweight division, both undefeated fighters, as you said. This is the fight. Mitchell, I think, will have the upper hand in the grappling, but Topuria is very, very good at the grappling as well. He smashed Ryan Hall. He just did not play his game and just smashed him. He also, unfortunately, knocked out our mate Jai Herbert, who we've undercard, and that was in the weight class above. So Topuria's got power in his hands. Mitchell's such a phenomenal grappler and wrestler. He's so slick, unbelievable jiu-jitsu. Like
He's
twists
a
people
phenomenal
up.
knobhead as well.
There is that. There is that.
We can't not mention that.
Oh, yeah, he is. It's difficult, and he is a
Yeah.
big conspiracy theory. I mean, at first I thought it was really fun. There's this crazy story about him doing DIY in his house using a drill and getting his testicles caught around the drill. Please go and Google that if you dare. It is horrific. And he seemed like this.
He's a legit problem, isn't he?
Oh, big time. He's like, but featherweight is stacked. Like, this was supposed to be Bryce Mitchell versus Movsar Evloev, who, again, another phenomenal fighter. More of a grappler heavy guy, Evloev. So I don't know how much Bryce Mitchell has been channeling his stand up, because I think if you're Topuria, and I might be wrong, as much as Topuria's got good ground game, I think he's going to want to keep this fight standing, and he's got power in those hands. And I think he's a better striker than maybe Evloev. So is Bryce Mitchell coming into this not as trained up as he could be for a fighter like Topuria? I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm super excited about this fight. I'm leaning Topuria, but honestly, if this fight gets to the ground, Bryce Mitchell is so slick and so unorthodox. He's got a couple of like twister finishes, isn't he? That he's like one of the only guys in the UFC to have twister finishes, and he's got two. He's got 2 of them. Yeah, phenomenal. This is the fight for me. I cannot wait for this fight.
Yeah. Just sort of looking at where we're at with the rest of the card. I mean, you want to talk about Rosenstrike and Dorcas, yeah?
I mean, it's a fight. It's happening. It probably be fun. I reckon someone will get knocked out.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So...
I think the winner or loser of this fight could be the next up for Taito Ivasa. I said that in our
Yeah,
previous.
that's
If
right.
you haven't
Yeah.
listened to our post UFC Orlando and stuff, go and quickly listen to that. We talk about the crazy James Krause gambling situation that's going on. If you haven't heard about that, please go and listen to that. And also post UFC Orlando, where we saw Taito Ivasa beat by Pavlovich and an amazing fight between Wonderboy Thompson and Kevin Holland. So go and listen to that if you can. But there's not a huge. There's loads of interesting fights on this
Well,
card,
let's
but
look
there's
at the
not a
next
huge
one.
amount to say about. Go on,
So,
what's the next one?
yeah, Raul Rosa Jr. So,
Oh,
18
yeah.
years of age
Yep.
and just come off of a win in the Contender Series. Lots of hype around him. Obviously, his age, and Dana's clearly a fan, has
Yep.
spoken a lot about him. So he's making his UFC debut on Saturday. So 6-0 record moving into the UFC. So excited to see that fighting Jay Perrin. What else is on the card that you want to?
So I think Chris Curtis versus Joaquin Buckley. Joaquin Buckley, the owner of the greatest knockout in UFC ever, as what's the word I'm looking at? As deemed by myself. It was phenomenal. Chris Curtis, Joaquin Buckley should be a good fight.
Did Buckley? He was in London, wasn't he? And he got the loss that he was very unhappy about, wasn't it? Was that? Am I right in saying that?
I don't think so. Was he?
No, it wasn't. No, I've got it wrong. I've got it wrong. My bad.
No, I can't remember. But Billy Quarantillo versus Alex Hernandez should be a bit of a banger. Quarantillo.
It was Chris Curtis that got the loss in London against Hermansson.
Yes, he was unhappy, but it was a clear loss. He just, I think he just got a bit emotional, which is understandable. But yeah, him versus Buckley, I think will be a fun fight. Quarantillo versus Hernandez, I think should be a really fun fight. Gustafsson is out of the OSP fight. It was Gustafsson versus OSP, which, to be honest, was just, I don't know. I wasn't particularly excited about it. It is two veterans and stuff, but after what happened with the Krylov fight, I don't know that Gustafsson should be getting back in there too quickly. So I'm sort of glad he's pulled out.
OSP is not a fight that many people would be excited about.
No, so OSP is now fighting Antonio Trocoli, who I don't know a huge amount about, but and then the other interesting fight on the card is Edmund Shabazian versus Dalcha Lungiambula. And man, where is Shabazian at? Shabazian was one of these highly touted young prospects, undefeated. He had some fantastic knockout victories in the UFC, went on a bit of a tear, and then
head kick
came
on
up
Brad
against
Tavares was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal. Then he fought Brunson, lost. Then he fought Hermansson, lost. Then he fought Imavov, lost. And he's now staring down the barrel of a 4-fight losing streak. And I think maybe this is one of those advertisements for young fighters being thrown into the fire and into the upper echelons of their division too quickly. He's still very young, but I think he was maybe thrown up in with the Lions a bit too quickly. And as I say, if he loses a 4-fight, I mean, is that him cut? Is that him gone? It could very well be.
Weird, isn't it? Like, a win over Jack Marshman and then Brad Tavares, and then the next thing you've got is Derek Brunson and Jack Hermansson, and Imanov.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking serious fights. And
yeah,
where do you go after that? And it's like you say, one more loss and
could be done. Yeah. I mean, he's young enough to find his way back to the UFC if he goes to the regional scene. I mean, we all know that the PFL and Bellator for fighters like Shabazian could pay him probably more money, but how much of you're not in a strong bargaining position to get extra money if you're on 4-fight losing streak. It's just not going to happen. So he might have to, and it might be good for him to go to like one of the more regional scenes again for a bit, go down to the LFA or something like that, and fight there and get a couple of wins under your belt there, and then maybe go to one of the bigger promotions again and see where you're at. Because he's young enough to find his way back to the UFC, but that's got to be so bad for your confidence when you're on a 3-fight losing streak, and if you get a 4th, I mean, that's got to be you done. With the UFC anyway, for now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all the action that's coming this Saturday. If you like Paddy the Baddy, I'm sure you're very excited about this upcoming fight. go check out our back catalogue, because you'll find 2 episodes. One where we talk about was it Paddy's debut in London?
We've had him on 3
Was
times.
it 3 times in total?
I think we've had Paddy on 3 times. So the latest 2 were more like to do with his UFC debut, and then to do with maybe UFC London, the first one back in March.
Right.
And prior to that,
mm.
we had him on again before David Martinez fighting they had him on before his last fight in Cage Warriors. And it's a fantastic chat. He talks a lot about like mental health, his process, the battles he's had mentally when he's, you know, had bad injuries, all these kinds of things. It's a phenomenal chat. So go and find that one. It's probably one of the earliest ones we did, but I think it still stands up against a lot of the other episodes as one of our greatest chats, talking to Paddy in maybe like, I don't know, it's definitely within the first like 8 episodes. I think we spoke to Paddy for the first time.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal chat. And obviously it's great to, when you listen to it, you know, he ain't changed. The UFC has not changed him at all. He's always been this guy.
Just with better teeth,
phenomenal.
Man.
Better teeth, yeah. Same haircut, better teeth.
We've mentioned Derek Brunson on today's episode. Go check out our chat with Derek Brunson. We was lucky to get some time with him. And go and have a look in the archives, because we've been so lucky with this podcast to chat to so many incredible UFC fighters from Bellator, PFL, and all other Cage Warriors, of course, a stack of fighters from Cage Warriors. Go have a good old rummage about in that archive. I've done over 100 episodes now, and they're all available for free. And just in case you think you're going to miss one, if you subscribe, then they'll just pop up on your listening device, and you don't need to worry about missing anything. Keep up with us on social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and we'll be back next time for a post-fight show.
We will. So next week we'll have the post-fight show. And also, if you are just listening to this, we do have our YouTube channel as well. And if you're watching this, thanks for watching. Laters, yeah?
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.